Welcome to your Autotrader400 preview with Maria from Maria's Formula for Victory. So, this is season two. I started doing the YouTube slash podcast episodes at the end of last year, so I do not have too many. So, I'm going to talk about how this works. On Wednesdays on TikTok, I post 3 things you need to know before making any bets or placing your fantasy lineup for the race of the upcoming week. Well, there's a lot more I can go into than a TikTok video would do. So, you know, I decided to put it into YouTube and podcast format. I'm going to break down a lot more numbers. Some people may find this super boring if you don't care about stats. Other people may find it super informative and helpful about why I made the 3 points that I did and the fantasy plays that I'm talking about. So it is going to be very similar to the TikTok, and I'm going to follow the same points. However, it's just going to be more in depth. So the first one we're going to talk about is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez, and AJ Allmendinger. But before we jump into my 3 points, just want to touch on a couple things for maybe newer NASCAR fans or a reminder if you don't know. The Autotrader400 is at Echo Park Speedway, which is formerly Atlanta Motor Speedway. It is 260 laps and it is 1.54-mile oval and it is 400 miles, obviously. Also, of note, there will be a new right side tire at Atlanta this weekend. It is aligning the other tracks of the same length, so other mile-and-a-half tracks that have been using this right side tire since 2023. The Goodyear NASCAR product manager was quoted saying they develop tires that encourage wear, and they think that they have consistently given good racing at Atlanta to give more tire wear. So let's see what happens when we get this right side tire. Unfortunately, because Atlanta is technically over that mile-and-a-half, we are not getting the new horsepower yet. We will have to wait until COTA. All right, let's jump in. So first we're going to talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez, and AJ Allmendinger. Why, you may ask? Well, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., I found something a little interesting. In the next gen car, his average finish is 15.0 here at Atlanta. However, if you look at just the last 6 races, which is the last 3 years, it is 9.7, which is a huge increase. Well, decrease, I guess, but for the positive. So that shows me he's really improved here. He also has that second place finish last week in Daytona. So I think Stenhouse is a great place to maybe look at a fantasy driver for, you can only use a driver 10 times. So you sometimes have to look for drivers that you would use that often so that way you don't burn out your top picks out the front. This race could be a good spot for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He did come in fifth here in February of 25 as well. So I feel like he's a good option here. If you want to place a bet for him to win, currently he's at plus 2,800. Now on to Suarez. Daniel Suarez does actually have a win here in the next gen era. He is also fifth in points here in the next gen era. So that tells me he's also a good fantasy play for this week. Now, the only caveat I'll say here is he's with a new team. So I don't know if his skill will carry over from Trackhouse to Spire, but I feel like maybe you could argue that Trackhouse is a little better, but they're both newer teams, up and coming teams. Finally, we've got AJ Allmendinger, which we don't say his name too often. He's more known for that Roval, I feel as though. that's when we bring him up. But there's no Roval this year. Anyways, so AJ Allmendinger in the next gen era has an average finish of 11.3, which is third best. Now, this is if you do not consider Connor Zilic, who only has one start, and it is 11th. So he is someone else that I'm like, oh, maybe he's kind of a long shot. It's only one sample size of one, so we can't go off too much, but it could be something interesting. I was thinking maybe like a spicy top 10 of Connor Zilic, Brad Kay, and Chase Elliott. That could be interesting. And that is a good segue into Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott is best in average finish here of all active drivers, both all time and next gen era. So all time it's 11.4. In the next gen era, it is 9.1. He has two wins here. Both of them are in the next gen era. So for me, he's definitely a favorite going in to predict a winner. Definitely a top 10 bet. Now, if we want to look at him fantasy wise, that gets a little interesting. Though he is the best of the drivers, average finish wise speaking, at Atlanta, Atlanta is not technically his best track. He has 9 other tracks that he has a better average finish in the last 6 races, which are Sonoma, Martinsville, Kansas, Gateway, Pocono, Iowa, Texas, Darlington, Coda, and then Atlanta. So, because it's right on the cusp, I could see you playing him this week. However, if you wanted to save him, especially for those other tracks, I 100% see that too. Who I think is a better play of a top dog is Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney does have a win here in general, not in the next gen era, but he is first in points here in the next gen era. He also is second best in average finish with an average finish of 10.9. He is very strong at Atlanta. Also, this is his 7th best track. So there's not as many better tracks for Ryan Blaney as there is for Chase Elliott, which is my reasoning to put Ryan Blaney in your fantasy this week as over Chase Elliott. Now, as I'm saying this, I 100% know I could be very wrong. No one ever knows, right? And even if Chase Elliott outperforms Ryan Blaney, that doesn't mean it was the wrong call because we have other races we need Chase Elliott for and Ryan Blaney. I'm just making the argument, if you're going to pick one, maybe Ryan Blaney this week. I know that Blaney, Logano, and Elliott are all favorites right now at plus 1,000. The reason I'm steering away from Joey Logano, he does have 2 wins here in the next gen era. I understand that. But he is a little bit of win or nothing. And by nothing, I mean like 30th, 20th, even 17th-ish. He has 2 DNFs here. He has a 16.3 average finish in the next gen era because of those DNFs and those worse placements. So it's like he's either going to win or not do well, and that's a little dangerous to me, whereas someone like a Chase Elliott, a Ryan Blaney is consistent here. Again, does not mean he can't do well. That's just my reasoning as to why I'm steering clear from Joey Logano. William Byron is also pretty high up there. However, I'm steering away from William Byron in this race for similar reasons. He also has 2 wins in the next gen era at this track. However, his average finish is even worse than Joey Logano's with 19.3 and has 3 DNFs. So that's why I'm steering away personally from those 2 drivers, even though they have a history of winning here. Another driver that I think, so those were my 3 main points that I talked about in my TikTok. And now I want to talk about some more drivers. Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski has the 5th best average finish all time here with 15.6. He also came in second in the June race behind Chase Elliott. He had a great placing at Daytona with fifth. For a second there, it looked like he could have won it. If you listen to my season preview, I thought that RFK was going to have a great season. Clearly, with the momentum of Daytona, his past performance at Atlanta, I think Brad Keselowski has a chance of doing really well here this weekend. I think Carson Hocevar is also an interesting driver this weekend. He only has four races here, but his average finish is 11.8, which brings him to third in all time. And then if we're looking in the next gen era, that would rank him fourth. In the February Atlanta race last year, Hocevar came in second. So he has good performance here. He just needs to be making better decisions. And then hopefully the bad luck of the truck race last week and maybe the cup race as well does not follow him. He could potentially do well there too, and you could have him as a long shot or a top 10 bet. That wouldn't really be a long shot or a top five. And finally, I want to touch on Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch all time has an average finish of 13.1 here. And even in the next gen era, he has an average finish of 13.3, which is ranks him fifth. Kyle Busch has won here twice. That is pre-next gen. But I still think there's a chance he can do well. He got the pole in Daytona. Maybe he's on the up and up. Give some hope to some Kyle Busch fans because let me tell you, I know that they're wanting a win bad, and I don't blame them. I want to see him do well too. So those are the main names that are standing out to me. Obviously, there's Christopher Bell in there. He has a win here in the next gen era, but his average finish is, I mean, he won last February, but his average finish is not up there with everybody else. So overall, that is my race preview going into Atlanta. Again, I think Chase Elliott is personally the favorite. Ryan Blaney is a great fantasy play and also has a great shot of winning. I think Stenhouse, Suarez, and AJ are great alternative fantasy plays for one or two drivers that you don't want to burn out your top dogs for. Suarez is plus 4,000 and Stenhouse is plus 2,800 at the time of this recording. Those are great money return long shots for you. Keep an eye out for the new right side tire. Hopefully we have good wear, even though it's a smooth track because of the repave. No new horsepower here. It is super speedway racing type at Atlanta. And I'm looking at those drivers. You can put in the comments, as always, if you have anybody else you want me to specifically talk about. Comment on the TikTok. That's probably the fastest way I'm going to see it. Or the YouTube comments. Yeah, thanks for listening. This is a short one, but just longer than the TikTok. Have a great day.